confused about your career? Commerce, arts, science, engineering, medical. Too many options and suggestions making you even more confused? Exam pressure, peer pressure, parental pressure. Have these become too much to handle? Well, don't worry, you're in the right spot right now. Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Times of India initiative, Mission Admission 2021. Through Mission Admission, the Times of India endeavors to bring to you diverse education institutions across Bangalore so that you get the right information about admission through talks from experts and an opportunity for both students and parents to resolve your queries. Keeping your safety and health in mind, we are organizing this information forum virtually this year. It is our privilege to have you all here in this forum today. We would also like to thank our sponsors, Dayanand Sagar University, Sindhi College, and International School of Management Excellence, Bangalore, for supporting this initiative. In the agenda today, we have three very interesting discussions where the gurus will help you find the right course for you. So we begin our first discussion, Careers in Engineering and Way Forward. This session is sponsored by Dayanand Sagar University, Bangalore. Over to you, Farheen.
Thank you, Astha. So let's start our discussion today on careers in engineering and the way forward. I'll start by introducing our elite panelists to all our audience right now. First, we have with us Dr. K.N.B. Murthy. Dr. K.N. Balasubramanya Murthy is the professor of CSE and the Vice Chancellor of Dayananda Sagar University. Sir is also the former Vice Chancellor of PS University, Bengaluru. He holds a bachelor's degree in electrical power engineering, a master's degree in electrical engineering from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and he holds a PhD in computer science and engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. Sir has worked as a research specialist in parallel computing at New York State University, USA. He's currently a member of Karnataka State Higher Education Council, the chairman of board for IT Education Standards, Government of Karnataka. Sir is also the chairman of Ranganathan Center for Information Studies and the academic senate member of IIIT Dharwad. Welcome, Dr. Murthy.
Thank you.
Next, we have with us Professor Arvind Srinivas. So, Professor Srinivas has over 36 years of experience in the IT industry through TCS. He has worked across different stages of an IT software cycle in different industry domains such as banking, finance, insurance, education, and manufacturing. He has also worked in different roles, starting as a junior programmer and analyst, progressing to heading a multi-country account, the unit project head, before being part of a group-level initiative of business excellence. His interaction has been with aerospace, manufacturing, retail, IT, research, hospitality, and chemical companies in the Tata Group. Welcome, Professor Srinivas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It's wonderful to have both of you here with us, sir. So let's start the session. I'll start my first question with Dr. Murthy. So if you could help us understand or give our audience a brief understanding about how engineering education has evolved in the last 2 decades.
Engineering education in the last 2 decades has gone through tremendous changes. First, between 2000 and 2015, there was an IT boom, because of which a large number of engineering institutions were established. Around 2008, there was a slump in the IT, thereby the entire set of processes in the industry started getting automated. Thereby, the number of jobs had reduced a little bit. The second change that I've also seen in the last 2 decades is that good number of private and deemed to be universities were established, because of which good number of engineering programs were also started in these deemed to be universities and private universities. Overall, there are great number of engineering seats were created in the last 2 decades, and also the overall demand for admissions also reduced a little bit because of the admissions. 2-3 things have also happened in the process. One, in view of the increase in number of seats, the available seats, the number of students opting for engineering was also reduced a little bit on account of the less number of jobs in the industry. In other words, there were more supply than the demand as far as the engineering seats are concerned. And the other thing that's also happened is because of the large number of engineering seats, the quality of number of the students and the quality of teachers available in the engineering institutions have reduced a little bit. Overall, the engineering education has seen a kind of change in the last 2 decades, and of late, the quality of engineering education has reduced a little bit. These are the overall changes that we could see in the last 2 decades as far as engineering education is concerned.
Yeah, thank you, sir. That was a very crisp, like a recap of sorts. You mentioned about the IT boom. I think that was kind of like a barrier movement in the whole engineering education. So Professor Srinivas, do you think this IT boom has changed the engineering education forever in India and making it more CS heavy?
Yes, it has definitely changed a lot. In fact, the entire IT industry has actually gone through ups and downs since the year 2000, as Professor Murthy said. There is a small glitch in 2008, but then it was more on the financial and the banking sector side, mostly on the Western Hemisphere, rather than the developing countries like India and the ASEAN region. But I would probably say that the engineering industry has actually focused more on the IT part, specifically on locally homegrown what I call industries, such as the Ola, the Uber, which is all connecting different kinds of industries, or probably the current trend, which is happening with respect to the pandemic, where we see a lot of artificial intelligence-based consumer clicks, or the robotic process automation, where we see the beginning of the trend towards waiters serving idlis and dosas in the hotels instead of trying to have to keep the social distance kind of a thing and all that. It's had its own, I believe the engineering industry is capable of adapting itself to the pandemic or any kind of a situation accordingly in terms of the way IT is going to be. But it's not restricted to IT is what I would say. Because what's happened is, especially with the advent of design engineering, it's become a multilateral discipline where, if you want a small drone to be built, you need a mechanical engineer to build the drone in terms of its mechanical components. They need an aerospace engineer to do that. Then you need a small electronics engineer to figure out the alerts between the sensors and this one. And then you finally need the path and all that to be done through a data analytics and the computer science. So I would probably say that the entire digital world right now has actually made the entire IT industry cutting across all fields of engineering.
So that means we are looking at a more interdisciplinary engineering field or education. So Dr. Murthy, let me ask you the next question, about the elephant in the room, the employability of engineers. So a 2019 NASSCOM report stated that 80%, only 80% of Indian engineers are employable. So what can universities do to fix this, to increase the employability of graduating engineering students?
Now, if you look at the whole scenario right now, the industry requirements or the skill requirements on one side, and the skills of the graduates, the job-ready skills of the graduates, there's a huge gap between the two. There are many reasons for that. The first and the foremost reason is that, barring few institutions, the top institutions like IITs and NITs, majority of the engineering graduates seem to be unemployable. In other words, the employability skills are a bit less. If we look at the overall kind of requirements, there are majority of skills required which have also been indicated very clearly by several progressive organizations like World Economic Forum, NASSCOM, and others. They have clearly said the kind of skills required for the future are the communication skills, the collaboration skills, the critical thinking skills, the creative skills, etc. When these kind of requirements are there, we are on one side, the requirements are very high. On the other side, the engineering institutions are not able to keep in pace with the kind of skill requirement of the industry. Thereby, we also see there's a gap between the two. The secondly that we also see that the good number of engineering institutions have admitted students with lower abilities, and also because of the increasing number of seats, the quality of faculty have also come down. Added to all of them, I think we see there's a huge gap in the whole thing. There's also another development that's also happened, that is AICTE has increased the faculty to student ratio from 1:15 to 1:20. Therefore, the total number of faculty available in the engineering institutions have also reduced a little bit. Thereby, there's a overall effect is that the good number of skills are not being imparted to the students. Therefore, majority of the students seem to be unemployable at this point of time.
I think that was an interesting point of view from the university side. Coming to the industry side of the whole issue, Professor Srinivas, if you could tell us and the audience that how could the industry collaborate with academia to develop these requisite industry-related skills among engineers?
Sure, definitely. In fact, I believe that there is definitely a lot of things which one has to do in terms of the industry-institute interaction, which you can see here. The first foremost thing is we need to have knowledge, skills, and attitude. These are the three basic things which you see on the screen. Knowledge is all about knowing what to do, which is what the engineering colleges do. They actually teach you the basics, theories, information, facts, and all of them. But skills is basically the how part of it, which is actually the supervisory skill, the people skill, organization skills, and whatever you can see. These are things partly implemented, deployed through the engineering and any other school. But then large part of it is only through peer education and probably observing role model behavior and all. But the attitude is something which is very difficult to teach per se in any school, because these are things like integrity, motivation, commitment, happiness and all, which is probably dependent largely on the formative years of the child when they try to come into the engineering or whichever school, and then subsequently try to get shaped into the way they get along into their primary school, high school, and going on until college and all that. So this is definitely an intersection of knowledge, skills, and attitude is what results in the ability, which is what Professor Murthy rightly talked about. So given this, I just wanted to talk about a few operating elements which are typically required for engineering colleges, which you can see. One is industrial consultancy, engineering design, being able to do projects independently or co-authoring books with industry authors, the board of studies, memberships, academic council, sponsored research, and then probably trying to call incubations into a center of excellence. Placement, of course, is something which every engineering college looks for. Internship in projects, faculty development programs, not just merely in terms of the technology of the faculty development, but also the art of being a faculty. A person may be very good at the subject, but may or may not know necessarily the art of teaching, because that's where I think a B.Ed program in engineering is something which I feel may be required. And then working closely with sponsoring certain activities in literary activities and things like that, calling for guest faculty, industry electives, and maybe if the alumni are probably quite strong, then they could have a joint program with industry or probably a sponsorship of a chair and things like that. Some of these things are more pronounced in the traditional disciplines like civil and mechanical, but then in the field of IT, it's a bit difficult. I mean, the academy is not yet caught up so much. But what I would say is from the IT industry perspective, some certifications like, certified quality analyst or the CCNA from some of these proprietary technologies like Microsoft, Cisco, and all of them help. And that's where probably I feel that some of these academics may have to offer an extra course, which is probably beyond the normal thing, because they're not arguably required to teach any proprietary technology, but then the industry wants them. We don't want to learn somebody who knows generally how a word processor operates. I want somebody who knows how a Word operates, how Excel operates. I want to know how a PowerPoint operates. I don't want the general operating principles. I want them to be having basic survival skills and ability to improve. And that's probably where I think some extra courses are being done by the industry. And this is where I thought I should probably stop here in terms of the overall industry traction system.
I think this was really very enlightening and interesting, the whole presentation. Thank you for that, Professor. And you know, the biggest concern right now for everyone is the pandemic and how it has affected everyone. So, Dr. Murthy, if you could tell us, you know, how has the pandemic impacted the students joining an engineering course this year? You know, are they at a disadvantage compared to the other batches?
Yes, as far as the pandemic is concerned, it has impacted the lives of almost everybody. Particularly if you look at the overall income of the parents, in the last 1 year, it has taken a big hit. Thereby, many of the meritorious students may not be in a position to pursue their engineering education in this year. There's one thing. The second thing that we also see is that the pandemic, we ended up teaching everything online, the virtual mode. In the virtual mode, the teaching learning is virtual mode, the assessments are virtual mode, everything is in the online mode. Thereby, the overall learning or the impact of learning of the student has reduced a little bit. In other words, the online learning cannot be equated to offline learning, mainly because the offline learning has the components of the informal learning, has the components of socializing, has the components of operating a physical equipment. Though we use the virtual labs, I'm sure the learning using a physical equipment is far different. Overall, if we see because of the income and because of the online kind of thing that are going to happen, there'll be a kind of slump that we can expect as far as engineering admissions are concerned this year. And secondly, the learning through online mode of an engineering course, which is supposed to be a professional course or a more practical in nature, the experiential learning, the project-based learning, etc., the overall learning of the student would be little less. In other words, is not be same as the offline learning. They are in-person learning. Therefore, I would see there'll be some kind of slump in the admissions for this year, probably in the next years to come. Once we get into a mode of blended learning, a little bit of in-person classes, etc., the overall scenario may change. The other thing that we also seen, whatever we have seen in the recent past, with regard to the serious CS orientation and less demand for non-CS courses, etc., all those things get stabilized, and probably in the next 2 to 3 years, there is some kind of equilibrium that may be established. The imbalance of which we see right now may vanish once the pandemic is going to come down a little bit.
I think that was nice to end it on a positive note that we will see these things to improve. But the other side, again, the industry, Professor Srinivas, that the pandemic has also shown us that the job market can be laced with so many uncertainties. So how can engineers be prepared for such scenarios? What have we learned from 2008 recession that we can use probably in these times of crisis?
Very interesting one, because the 2008 crisis was a slightly different one, unlike the current one what we are facing. The recession was not equally felt in 2008 across the entire world, probably because it was mostly related to the financial crisis where people lent more monies and things like that and all. And in the developing countries such as the Asian countries and all that, we probably didn't feel much of it. But definitely there has been some learnings which we have seen here, because this pandemic has affected the entire globe all across, and specifically the manufacturing sector. which has hit a lot of production, supply chain, and small and medium businesses which are into the production sector. Whereas if you look at the service sector, thanks to the internet boom and all that, it's definitely made things grow quite well. And in fact, probably due to the large amount of money being spent on vaccinations, or probably trying to discover a vaccine, apart from the pharma industry, the IT industry has caught up a lot in terms of being able to do a lot of Jing Bang, what I call data analytics, forecasting models, stochastic models, and all that, which are all using high computing power. But at the same time, even the consumer electronics, for example, the requirement for laptops, headsets, and all these platforms which we are currently using has simply scaled up beyond imaginable levels. And this has caused certain things. So in other words, there has been a slight skew in the industry in terms of what's happening, because I feel very bad for the manufacturing, the production line, supply line sectors, which are definitely getting affected. And also what's happened is one lesson which has been learned by the industry is obviously to increase your customer database, because earlier the customer database was largely restricted to only one or two. Now the ability to diversify is something which has made some people at least mitigate or minimize to some extent, as opposed to completely going blank. And the other one is also some daily operations which used to be done through franchisees and all that. Now what's happened is a lot of these franchisees have diversified across different geographies. Like if a pandemic happens in the heavy states in Maharashtra, then you have a state in Delhi or Tamil Nadu or West Bengal where you could probably have some distribution being done across. And of course, the biggest lesson has been cash is king. Let me be honest about it. We need to preserve cash and we need to reduce the debt, which is what was not happening earlier in the 2008 crisis. And that's something which has happened a lot. And the ability to access cash and the reducing debt is something which has happened. And as I said earlier, the opportunities are something which has come down differently. But I strongly believe that one of the hallmarks of the economic downturn is that employees who are either let go from their respective jobs or worried about it began considering charting their own career path. Studies following the 2008 recession showed that nearly 1 in 5 entrepreneurs started a new business after losing their job. There's no surprise. Circumstances often inspire action, and belief simply pushes that action towards reality. That's my hope.
Thank you, sir. So, because we are short on time, I'll quickly try to take as many questions from our audience as well. First, the first question to Dr. Murthy from our audience is, has the pandemic hit the popularity of any particular engineering courses, sir? If yes, what are such courses? And also, the other side, what are the other courses that have become important or popular because of the pandemic? If we could just quickly...
Yeah, as far as this particular thing is concerned, I think in the recent past, in view of the emergence of IT and IT-related kind of courses, maybe because of the projections that are in, there's a technology evolution that's going to happen. There's a huge demand for CS and CS-related courses. In view of that, good number of CS-related courses have emerged, like artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, cybersecurity, etc. At the same time, the demand for traditional engineering courses like mechanical, civil have come down a little bit. I'm sure in the years to come, AI and machine learning will be used in every engineering course. I think all of them get stabilized a little bit. Obviously, they work on that and come back, and the demand for all engineering courses are going to come back. In my honest opinion, the overall demand would be same in the future, because without mechanical engineering, we cannot lead a life at all. I think civil engineering, mechanical, everything is required. I think it can come back. That's what my...
So with the base engineering courses, we have AI and ML as the new thing.
Exactly.
Right. So Professor Srinivas, for you, the next question from our audience is, do you think the scope for engineering students in academia has become brighter, or has its scope decreased in the last 2 years? I think it's related to research. So what is the scope like, sir?
Yeah, I believe the scope for engineering has always remained. No matter, because earlier what one used to think was engineering was traditionally boilers, geysers, or cycle gears and things like that. And right now what's happened is the last couple of years, there's a little focus on the IT-enabled aspect of it. And the digital world has actually started touching everybody's life. No matter whether it's a mechanical engineer or whether it's a civil engineer, you need a house to live. But then at the same time, if you need your Alexa to work, you need to make sure that the Alexa needs a small electronics engineer component to build a sensor, but at the same time, you need electrical power for the house, or you need a UPS to make sure that happens. So what's happened is there is definitely a slight downturn in terms of the traditional base core discipline, as what I would say, but it's just that the current surface, what you see, is mostly related to the IT part, because that's something which is very easily doable, especially when you see work from home and things like that. So that's the way I would look at it.
Great. Thank you, sir. So my last question to both the panelists, sir, if quickly, maybe 3-4 skills, if you could say. The question is, what are the skills that a student should have in class 12th so that they can take up engineering as the future path? So first, Dr. Murthy, sir, if you could go. 2-3
Yeah,
skills.
first and the foremost thing is physics and mathematics. Physics and mathematics is definitely one of the important things for engineering to do well, because mostly engineering is around building models. It always starts with the mathematical model. Therefore, the equations are going to be the language of engineers. Therefore, that mathematics and physics are going to be critical, in my opinion.
Wonderful. Professor Arvind, if you could say 2-3 skills that a student in 12th must have if they want to take up engineering.
Yeah, I would probably say that their ability to be curious, to know what's happening around their own backyard. Curiosity is something what they need to develop a skill, which they should try to figure out as to how does electricity happen, or why does the fuse go in my house, or why does the internet work. I mean, they have to build that curiosity skill. And the other part is they also need to develop an aptitude for solving problems. It's not merely curiosity alone. Also, maybe the simple Rubik cube, or maybe the simple jigsaw puzzle which they keep doing. That's something which they need to do. And the third thing, what I feel is, for an engineering skill to be developed at the 12th standard age, they need to have the passion to say that, look, I want to make a difference. It may not be always necessarily Nobel Prize or something like that, but I need to make a difference to the people around me, my family, my community, my city, my state, or whatever. Unless that passion is there, complemented with the skills like mathematics and physics and other things, it will definitely happen.
Wonderful. So aptitude for mathematics, physics, curiosity, and a lot of passion. That's the key, right? Thank you so much, Dr. Murthy and Professor Srinivas. It's wonderful having you here. And I hope our students will understand a lot and know what to do next. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
I would also like to thank our sponsor, Dayananda Sagar University, for this enlightening session.
Thank you, Dr. K.N.B. Murthy and Professor Arvind Srinivas for such an insightful session. It is heartening to know that students have so many options in engineering. Now, moving on to our next discussion, courses in commerce and management after class 12 and future career options. This session is sponsored by International School of Management Excellence, Bangalore. Over to you, Farheen.
Thank you, Astha. I have some amazing panelists with me, and it's an honor to start off by introducing them to you all. First, I have with me Dr. Kurian, who is currently the Dean at the International School of Management Excellence, Bangalore. Sir has a master's in business administration from Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Pune, and a PhD in consumer buying behavior. Sir also has presented papers in research conferences, made presentations at international forums in Singapore, Beijing, and Mexico, among others. Dr. Kurian has over 32 years of experience in education, business development, training, and consulting. He has held senior leadership positions in various renowned educational institutions and business organizations. Sir has an extensive exposure to markets in India, Australia, UK, Middle East, and the USA. And his work has also paved the way for a lot of top Indian companies to set up bases and expand operations in Australia. Dr. Kurian is currently the Joint Secretary Honorary of National HRD Network Bangalore, a life member of the Indian Society for Training and Development, and CII. Welcome, Dr. Kurian.
Thank you, Farheen.
Next, we have with us Mr. Pranab Jyoti. Pranab is a trained HR professional and currently working closely with senior business leadership team of the Volvo Group on people and leadership developmental initiatives of the group covering Asia Pacific region. He's been with the group for the last 8 years and is based in Singapore since January 2018. Pranab brings strategic HR expertise in the area of the end-to-end HR functional skills, leadership coaching, among other areas. He's experienced in global HR projects, M&A, and global HR strategy development. Pranab started his career in Grassroots Industries Limited in India in March 2002 and has worked in companies like Tata Motors and TVS Motors before joining Volvo Group India as the corporate HR manager in the year 2008. A strong believer in continuous learning and people relationships, Pranab is a member of the National HRE Network in India. He has also played an active leadership role within NHRD Bangalore chapter for academic engagement activities, especially competence development program for MBA students. Welcome, Pranab.
Thank you so much.
So let me kickstart this session with our first question to Dr. Kurian. So what kind of students do you think should choose commerce as their undergrad degree? Does it suit a specific type of students over others?
So Farheen, my answer for that is students who are inclined towards commerce and business are the students who should actually go in for these kind of courses. Because these days students have a lot of opportunities apart from the standard engineering and medicine. You have you have your BCom, you have your BBA. As students who want to kind of pursue careers in the areas of marketing, finance, HR, even data analytics, and Bangalore is such a wonderful place where students get an opportunity. We have very large companies here, multinational companies who actually hire students, who have finished their undergraduation in both in BBA and BCom, and also students who have a plan to kind of become entrepreneurs. Bangalore is the startup city, in India, and who actually have a mindset to start businesses. These are the students who should really go for commerce and courses. Having said that, today for students who are finishing 12th standard and they are looking at wanting to do a particular course, there are assessment tools for looking at their aptitude, their passion, their personality, their interest. So there are a variety of things that can be used. There are tools that can be used to measure their interest, and also these are opportunities that are there for these students.
Got it. I think that's a really nice way to start off the session. So the next question to Pranab is, what are the benefits of pursuing management at an undergrad level, rather than doing some other course and then pursuing it at the PG level?
Yeah, thank you for asking that very interesting question. I'm sure, very apt in current condition also. So if you continue from what Dr. Kurian said, and let me give a very basic context, why graduation, right, after 12? Primarily to develop, according to me, 3 core competences of life. Number one has to develop the, basic foundation. When I say foundation, the subject knowledge and certain expertise in any stream like BSc, BA, doctorate and things like that. The second part is to develop the cognitive skills. When I say cognitive skills, we are in a complex world. We need to solve problem. We need to understand the complex issue. We need to address a issue in a very meaningful way. Right? And then number 3 is to develop an active social skills for our lifelong journey, because we are in a society and we are part of the society. So whatever we are, we have to relate to a bigger society, and henceforth a graduation is a good start. Now the point is, if someone has an orientation towards corporate life or some sort of entrepreneurial life, if he start the graduation with courses like BCom or courses like BBA or management related, it becomes little simple and easy transition to the next level. So what happened? It is a good early start, and I would say one develop a very good foundation to do well in courses like MBA and so forth. So that would be my quick summary for me.
Yeah, I think to wrap it, it's like the BCom and BBA are the foundational courses to take it ahead. So Dr. Kurian, to build on that, what do you think are the job opportunities for students who have completed their BCom and BBA degrees?
I'd first like to state, even from our new education policy, most of these courses are fashioned in such a manner that they are very outcome and employment based. All right. So in terms of what jobs that they can get is let's look at the various streams to understand what possible jobs they can get at the end of their undergraduate program. If it is in marketing, you have jobs like a business development manager, you have areas in client servicing, you have opportunities in market research. If it is finance, there are opportunities in tax and audit, in process transactions with large companies here in Bangalore. You have Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, State Street. All of them take undergraduate students, and every year they hire pretty large numbers. So there is an opportunity in that space. Even in analytics, which is really catching on these days, there are a lot of opportunities for students, in that space. Even if for HR, as recruiters, there are a lot of IT companies here, and they prefer to take undergraduate students and train them. So there are a lot of opportunities in all these areas for students who are looking for employment after their undergraduate program by doing a BBA and a BCom.
Yeah, I think that's a lot, and pretty encouraging for all the students out there. So, Pranab, now the next thing before a job for most of the students is internships, right? So how does the industry equip commerce and management students through internships? And what do you think the students will get to learn during their stint?
Yeah, sure. Farid, you see, the internship is, for me, a workplace, right? Where, from a college, we go to a workplace. That workplace can be an agricultural land where you are, doing, certain agricultural activity. It can be a cricket stadium where, somebody from Nets going to the stadium and playing Ranji Trophy before, playing for India. Or it can be a corporate life where one understands, how work works. It is very important to understand how work works, meaning that he or she need to understand what is the basic time discipline, 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock, what is the lunch time, how computer work, and so forth. These are the basics of any individual, of any talent level. So an internship open up a horizon to relate his knowledge level to a skill-oriented approach where we need to translate our knowledge towards the wisdom, and the wisdom bring outcomes. Now, what is an outcome is nothing but an output of a job, and what is an output is nothing but the efficiency or result of any process what we have. It can be a car, it can be a kurkure, or it can be a chocolate. But the point is that there is an outcome, and for that we have to start with practical exposure. So for me, internship is a practical skills very much needed for this, position of knowledge, wisdom, and outcome. Now, if you see the world outside India, especially, you go to US, you go to Europe, including Singapore, where I live, is that students do internship during graduation, which I don't see much in India, to be honest. Because in graduation, people are very academic. They want to develop the knowledge to develop a very strong foundation. And also, we are very highly marks oriented, meaning that everybody wants 90%, 95%, and they do not get time to go out and go to the agriculture field or to the stadium or the corporate life. But as I say, it is equally important for an individual to translate the knowledge into a life skill. And that's why I personally want to promote the internship in the graduation. It is there in MBA because in MBA it is compulsory as per the curriculum and accreditation and things like that. But I think a student also need to take his or her personal initiative during the graduation also. And I also say that academic institute also need to promote this, which is fantastic, and it makes an individual life simple when he or she comes to the corporate life.
Yeah, interesting. It's like the trial run before the actual thing starts. And
yes, yeah, you need to play Ranji Trophy before you play for India.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So now coming to the guidance for the Ranji Trophy, Dr. Kurian, if you could tell us that what kind of guidance and support is provided to students who have planned for further education like CA and MBA?
Yeah. So what we do at ISME is, we provide support through number one, we have this mentoring and coaching, which we provide to all our students for who are wanting to do a CA and an MBA course. So we have special workshops. We also have actually clubs and labs. In clubs, we really have the communication club, the CSR club, the literary club, the ESL club. So they really really help them to understand various facets of what is there ahead for them. So and at ISME, we also have something called an ACCA, the Associate Chartered Certified Accountants program, which we really make sure that our BCom students study as part of their program. We are 6 papers out of the 9 fundamental papers are integrated into the BCom program. So they need to do only 3 more papers to finish the fundamental level. And after that, if they do 4 more papers, they then become members of ACCA. So that's one aspect. The second thing is, when you mentioned about MBA, so we have actually coaching classes where we help students to prepare for exams like CAT, like MAT, like GMAT, in case they want to kind of pursue an MBA program. And this is all within the 3 years that is there. We help them not only to complete the curriculum for the undergraduate program, which is the BCom and the BBA, but we also help them and coach them with a lot of life skills as well as preparation for exams.
Thank you. I think that's a good one to go. And before we take final 2 more questions, I have one question to Pranab. So with automation and digital transformation becoming the norm, how has the role of commerce and management professionals evolved? And what are some new age skills that these students need to be prepared for?
Yeah, sure. Actually, your question can go beyond the commerce and management student as far as the digitalization or automation is concerned. So if you see in India or in Bangalore, today, everybody has a mobile. Today, everybody is highly networked. Anybody can contact anybody, right? And today's session is also one of the great examples. So the question is, how automation and digitalization help an individual in day-to-day life or in the corporate world? And what you see is that it brings efficiency in our life, right? In terms of the banking solution, what we have, or in terms of the WhatsApp call, what we make, and so forth. So in a simple way, it increases the efficiency and it connects us to the entire world. Now, when we use the word automation and digitalization, somebody think that it is highly technological, only PE, computer science graduate can do. But the beauty is that you and me can develop an app without knowing coding as well today, because there are many opportunities where nowadays you can develop an app with no code, right? So henceforth, it is important that we look, this subject holistically and see what are some of the new skills, which can help. Of course, there are programmers who develop the, platforms and, big architectures. Example, ICICI Bank infrastructure is managed, with a very tight security and things like that. For that, you definitely need to have a technical skill. For our day-to-day life, automation and digitalization, we can learn, we can do, and we can enjoy. So I would say, including the graduation, or the, masters and things like that. You see the project management when an MBA student or a graduate student do. We generally do a project using Word and Excel. Today, there are many, project management tools. You simply follow the direction and make your life simple. So one has to be a little more active with a very good learning mindset. And then go for it. So I would welcome everybody to join this change, and it is unavoidable. We have to jump into it.
Thank you so much, Pranab. We are running short on time, so we'll quickly jump to taking to audience questions. Again, because we do not have much time on our hand, we'll be just picking 1 or 2 questions from our audience. The first one is directed to Dr. Kurian. Sir, what is your advice to parents who value engineering degrees over commerce or management degrees?
Earlier also, I think it's very important to look at the child's interest, the aptitude, the personality, the passion, And today, students are moving across India. I mean, if you look at even Bangalore city, we have students coming from various states. Okay, all students today are tech savvy. They're digitally attuned. They have to be trained to work in a virtual environment. You have close to 900 universities, about 40,000 colleges, and there are so many specializations and subspecializations because jobs itself has changed. Within jobs, within verticals, there are sub verticals, and there is so much of opportunities. So, I think there was this mindset a few years back that it was engineering and medicine, but the world is open to, as I mentioned earlier, also to this generation Z. They can just do so many, vocations that are there. And I think parents must really encourage the students to follow their passion, to follow their heart, to follow the interests that they have in mind. And there are a lot of opportunities out there. So one can look at these new age jobs that are there, and not only look at medicine and engineering. And for that matter, today there are so many engineering colleges where seats are still available. So you can see that shift that is really happening, in the mindsets, both of parents as well as students, to look at the emerging areas and looking at the emerging jobs that are coming.
Yeah, from a shift of mindset to a lot of opportunities beyond
absolutely
the basic engineering and medical.
Yes, that's right.
So as much as the whole session is interesting, I have the last question, because we are short on time, to Pranab. That what is your message to the students who are left with so much of uncertainty due to the pandemic and cancellation of exams?
Yeah, sure. Personally, I wish all of the students, all of the citizens across the globe to come out of the pandemic very quickly. And I pray God, and I also wish I would say a life with much more safer zone as such. But you see, this is a part of our life now. And sometimes we need to also go back and think, if a student failed in a subject or 1 year, will it destroy his complete life? For me, answer is no. Because you see, the productivity of a human being is 50 years. He or she start his career at the age of 22, 23 and work till 70 years and things like that. Of course, certain consideration says 58 years and 60 years. But you see today, the lifespan of a human being has increased. So people do work up to 70 years, no more up to 50 years, 60 years. So which means that if you lose 1 year, you still have another 49 years. Now, we need to bring this long-term thinking, and we need to use the power of patience and power of self-reflection and a little bit more preparation and things like that. And I can relate to my life as well. In my class 6 and 7. By the way, in class 6, I have failed in 4 subjects. If I would have failed one more subject, I would have dropped that year itself. And then after that, my sister, counseled me, and then I pulled up, and I did whoever I am. It's because of my sister and mother. So the point is that our life is always chaotic in nature. It is never a one straight line. We are in a complex world, so we need to acknowledge. And I think pandemic is teaching this equally to everybody, all the way from the US president to me and you. And henceforth, I would suggest as a final advice to have patience, use this power of self, because the human being is one of the most powerful species in this universe, right? So we need to have self-confidence. It's time to read books. It's time to be with family, and then you see slowly we are already coming out of the pandemic. So with that, I want to wish good luck to all the aspiring students and all of you as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think from patience to having a larger worldview, the session has been really very interesting. Thank you so much, Dr. Kurian and Pranab. It was wonderful to have this conversation with the both of you. I would also like to thank the sponsors of the session, the International School of Management Excellence. Thank you all. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Fareen. It was really interesting, and wonderful session that we had. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pranab.
Thank you, Dr. Ronnie Kurian, Dr. Pranab Jyoti for such an enlightening session. I am sure that all the participants have a better clarity about their options in commerce and management after class 12. Today's last discussion is on the topic, online education is the future of education. This session is sponsored by Sindhi College, Bangalore. Over to you, Fareen.
Thank you, Astha. Our discussion on online education as the future of education is a much needed and well-timed one. So let me just start off this session by introducing our esteemed panelists. First, we have with us Dr. P.S. Srikanth, who is the principal of Sindhi College, Bangalore. Sir has 42 years of teaching experience, 16 years of research experience, and about 30 years of administrative experience. Dr. Srikanth began his career as a lecturer in physics at National College, 𝗟𝗏𝗘𝗘, and in 1976, he became one of the youngest principals in the collegiate education with his position at the RBNMS First Grade College, where he has served for 27 long years. As a researcher, he has published 16 research papers in international and national journals and successfully completed 2 UGC-sponsored research projects. Dr. Srikanth has also authored 8 books for both PU and BSc classes. At present, Sir is also serving as a member and member coordinator of NAC peer team. He is a life member of several academic bodies and has been awarded several awards for his excellent service. Welcome, Dr. Srikanth. Next, we have with us Professor Rishikesh BS, who is the Associate Professor at Azeem Premji University. Sir is a faculty with the School of Education and leads the Hub for Education, Law, and Policy located at the university. He's been an educational researcher for over 2 decades. Of this, he spent more than a decade with Azeem Premji Foundation, which allowed him to engage with the education bureaucracy as well as teachers across more than a dozen states in India. Over the last couple of years, education policy-related issues have formed the core of Professor Rishikesh's work. He's on various government advisory committees on issues concerning education, particularly in Karnataka. Welcome, Professor Rishikesh.
Thank you.
So let me start off the session with my first question to Dr. Srikanth. Sir, if you could tell us, how is the future looking for online learning in higher education? Can you cite any steps being taken by your institute in this area?
The future for online education looks very bright, particularly in higher education, mainly because of 3 reasons. One is the flexibility. The second one is the affordability. The third is the accessibility to wide variety of options. When it comes to flexibility, is a very important aspect of online education. It allows students to attend classes from any place of their choice, at any point of the day, at any time of the day, depending upon the convenience of the teacher and the students. It transcends all geographical boundaries. Students can attend classes with the comfort of their homes. Online lectures can be recorded, preserved, and used at a later date. So the students can access the study materials whenever they require. And particularly, it is tailor-made for employed people without quitting the job. They can pursue their education in the areas of their interest, and it's a very useful learning method for acquiring new skills and also for sharpening the skills in a subject. When it comes to affordability, online education is far more affordable as compared to the traditional learning through physical classes. In the recent days, all of us know that with increased number of private players, education is getting commercialized. Therefore, campus education, which we call it as the brick and mortar education, is becoming quite expensive, unaffordable by many students and parents. On the other hand, through online education, one can get quality education at an affordable cost Brick and mortar education is expensive because of the expenses incurred under various heads like establishment charges, then lodging, sports, cultural, transportation, etc. Then next comes the suitability of the courses and also accessibility and the selection of the courses. You know, it's a well-known fact that every student has a different learning style and also pace of learning. The grasping power varies from student to student. While teaching in a classroom to a group of 80 to 100 students, which is very common in the Indian context, sometimes, several students fail to comprehend the lessons very properly. So learning level or level of comprehension, as I said earlier, may vary from student to student. For the sake of slow learners, teacher may have to engage special classes, which again may not be possible at all times. So whereas in online teaching, personalized teaching is possible, and so that needs of each and every student can be addressed. Further, in the online mode, study material is shared with the students prior to the class, and this enables students to learn at their own space and at their convenience. And classes can also be made interactive so that the students will be able to get their doubts clarified. And the next very important advantage of the online is the students can learn whatever they want and with variety of options available. Huge variety of options are available. With online education, without traveling away from home, a student can take any program or course of his or her choice. Let us say a student is interested in, let's say, digital marketing. All it takes is a search on a Google engine for that course offered by a prestigious university across the world and get enrolled. So large variety of options available on the online programs and courses available is a big advantage of this type of education. When it comes to the arrangements that we have made in our institution, in our college, even before the pandemic, we wanted to augment ICT-enabled teaching learning process. Therefore, in fact, as a first step, we provided laptops to all the teachers, all the faculty members. Besides, our campus is a Wi-Fi enabled campus. We have also provided LAN network to all the classrooms. Teachers and students have been provided free access to internet and InfluNet so that they can download whatever information they want, like videos and other study materials, and make the online teaching very interesting. And I'm very happy to share with all my viewers that in our institution, the online education has been going on very successfully since this pandemic. And the students and parents are very happy. In fact, I collected the feedback. I had a personal interaction with the students and parents, and all of them are happy. And I'm happy to say that the online education has been very successfully going on in our institution.
Thank you, Dr. Srikanth. Thank you. Coming next to Professor Rishikesh, whose expertise on online education has always been great and everyone looks up to it. So will online learning, sir, in higher education democratize learning and make it more accessible for a larger section of society? For example, young girls and women whose parents are unwilling to send them to college. Will it, help these kind of students? What do you think, sir?
Fareen, I think it's important for us to understand as to, what do we mean by democratizing learning. So if we are going to be talking about ensuring that there is far more access, then we should also understand that by providing only online, the kind of quality that we would be able to offer to those who currently do not have access is not going to be the best. Right. So in one sense, yes, it would probably democratize learning once there is already a certain basic hygiene level met in terms of basic requirements of higher education. So that's something that we should keep in mind, because it is very important that there is physical access to a higher education. After all, we should remember that education, be it at the school level or higher education, it's a social process, and because of that, physical access is very important. However, online mode, what NEP calls as ODL, online distance learning, is definitely a valuable add-on. And I think once you have the physical access in place, when students come in, if there is the ODL mode, then the kind of opportunities the students would get is very, very large. But to begin with, I think that physical access is something which is very, very crucial. In fact, that is the reason why NEP recommends that every district in the country should have a high quality, multidisciplinary higher education institution. That is really the way forward. And if you look at the NEP, the emphasis is on the multidisciplinary nature of higher education. So now you will understand that the manner in which you can create multidisciplinary environment is really in a physical space, as Professor Srikanth was saying, in a brick and mortar kind of an institution. So once you have that, then having ODL there to give further exposure, to give more opportunities to students to take courses which are offered anywhere in the world, that is probably what is going to allow for a certain kind of democratization. So this is something that we all should understand, very much and appreciate it. Now, the other thing we should also understand is that distance programs have been running. They have been there in the country for many years, but then they're not very successful. The reason again is quality. Why don't we have enough people taking on distance learning? Because just about anyone and everyone offers distance learning. People look at low fee and probably just think that they may get something out of it and enroll by paying that small fee. Unfortunately, at the end of it, they don't really see enough value for even that small money that they may have put in there. So because of this very low quality of distance learning has not been a very successful model. And that is the reason why NEP again says that ODL facilities should be in place in all institutions, but then courses should be offered only by those higher education institutions that have a certain level of accreditation. It basically brings us to this point that only if you're able to run a very good higher education institution with in-person classes, it is only then that you would be able to do justice to a ODL model. Yeah. Right. So that is the reason why, in fact, in NEP, that recommendation is there that ODL courses should be permitted in institutions which have a certain level of accreditation. And I think that's something also for us to keep in mind. Coming to this point that you raised with regard to whether, for instance, certain sections of the society, girls, for instance, would they have better access? Would parents allow them for higher education, given that it's only online? Now, we should remember that the reason why certain sections of the society, be it the underprivileged, be it the girls, be it anyone, not going over to study further after school is because of that access not being close, right? But at the same time, along with that access is the quality of access. So now only ODL hence will not be able to solve this problem. Yes. It will have to be a very high quality program. And if you look at the data, girls enrollment in higher education is 49%, right? So you have about 19.2 million male enrolled, and you have about 18.3 or 4 female enrolled. This is the latest All India survey on higher education. So the gap is about 1 million. Number wise it is much, but then percentage wise not much. And in fact, when you look at the gross enrollment ratio, the girls' gross enrollment ratio is slightly higher than boys. It is 26.6 or something, wherein for boys it's 26.3. So you see the issue is really about quality education being available. And of course, some things like ODL would mitigate it to some extent, but then it is about ensuring that there is access to the larger population in our country.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, sir. That I think the focus on quality is important if you have to have distance education or online education. That brings me to the next question to Dr. Srikanth, sir. So how are colleges equipping themselves with the technology aspect to impart online courses? Are there any strategic partnerships involved, sir?
Yeah, see, let me make it very clear. As Professor Rishikesh was mentioning, this online education is, in principle, it's not new actually. It has its roots in distance education. And now with the National Education Policy 2020, now, they want to give, more importance to this online education, particularly with regard to the enhancement of the gross enrollment ratio. Exactly. Say, for example, the National Education Policy 2020 envisages to increase the gross enrollment ratio from the present about 26% to about 50% by 2035. So if it has to happen, it is difficult to increase the gross enrollment ratio from 26 to 50%. In the physical mode, with the brick and mortar education, it's quite when I say it's very difficult, because it requires establishment of large number of colleges and universities in the country, considering our country's population and all that. So obviously we have to resort to the online education, and in that direction, I think I remember to have read very recently, the government of India has also given permission to about 38 universities to start online courses also. I mean, as Rishikesh was mentioning, I think we have to give permission to conduct these online courses only to accredited institutions. I mean, institutions which really maintain the quality of education, and also we have to come to the credibility of the institution also. So considering the credibility and the accreditation of the institution, we have to give permission for the colleges to conduct online courses. And coming to the preparation for conducting the online courses, I think, many colleges now, they have the Wi-Fi facility. It's not that, because as per the NAC guidelines also, this ICT enabled teaching learning is very important in all the institutions, and a lot of emphasis is given to the ICT learning in colleges. So when you want ICT learning to happen in the institution, obviously you should have Wi-Fi facility and all the internet accessibility and all that. So once you have the internet accessibility, and also many colleges have access to this internet, InflipNet and all that, where you get information and all that, so that the teachers and both students and teachers can download a lot of information from the books and the journals available on the InflipNet and all that. And many colleges, they have also established multimedia labs, where the teachers can prepare study material, like for example videos, then podcasts, and then PPTs and things like that, to make their online teaching learning very effective and also efficient. So that way, I tell you that most of the college, maybe in the rural areas, some accessibility problem is there. Internet accessibility problem is there, but even that is also sorted out to a large extent, actually, large extent. So I would say that now, particularly in this present pandemic situation, with the continuous onslaught of this pandemic, I think many students, without an alternative, I think many colleges have already now equipped, and they are going ahead with the online education. And you talk about the strategic, relations and all that. I don't think there is any such strategic relations established. But probably one of the strategies is to see that the accessibility is enhanced in the internet accessibility, and so that the online education goes uninterrupted in all the institutions. So that kind of preparation has been done in all the institutions, and I think things are going on. Particularly in higher education, I think colleges are equipped for online education, and in the beginning, probably it was a first-time learning experience for both teachers and students. So that kind of that was there. But now that whatever hiccups were there in the beginning, initial hiccups and all that I think people have overcome that, and now particularly in the after this second wave, and things are, I think, they have improved a lot as far as the online education is concerned.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I think you've given a very a good picture of what the universities have been going through. Coming to the students, Professor Rishikesh, sir, most of these students who are in college and university levels have had offline classrooms right from their childhood. So I'm sure they would have some difficulties to face the drastic change. So if you could tell me, that do you think they do face difficulties to have online classes at this stage of their learning, and what can be done to ease such students into online learning?
Yeah, definitely, Farin. There is a huge amounts of difficulty that students face, again, given the kind of background that students come from, right? So there would be some who coming from very advantaged backgrounds, and they would have very little difficulty, but there are others, a large percentage across our country, who face severe difficulty when you move on to something like this. I'll give you an example from what we had to do at Azeem Premji University when we moved into an online mode abruptly last year. As you know, we have students from across the country, and we have students from different backgrounds. So it's a hugely diverse student body that we have. And though we knew all that, given that our students are all equipped with their personal computers and they have their dongles for the internet, we felt that some syllabus readjustment and some pedagogic alteration should be enough, as we had the tech platforms, right? So that is what we felt when we went into the online mode. But over the last 1.5 years, what we felt or what we've realized is that the tech aspect of ODL is a very small percentage. There's so many others, starting just from a simple stable connectivity. Just because they have a dongle, it's not that all students were able to log in and continue to be present throughout a session. So, surveys will tell us that there is internet connectivity of X percentage in, this city or in that part of the country. But what they don't tell us is as to how stable is that connection. And when you're talking about learning, now it can't be like a phone call wherein calls keep dropping and you keep joining in, because then you're not going to get the best of the situation or the environment. So that is one big thing, right? And stable connection is very difficult, even in cities, as you also would know. And then once you have the connection, the other learning environment, I mean, is the student having an environment wherein she or he is able to focus on what's happening in that online session? So this is another thing that we realize, that many students, do not have the kind of learning environment that is required in their respective homes. So in fact, in our university last year, we had to dig deeper into our budget to give some kind of stipend for our students to rent rooms in cities where the connection is stable, as well as where they can equip themselves with a learning environment. Yeah. So there are, so many things that students face, and higher education institutions will have to come up with solutions for these. And it's not just simply launching an ODL platform.
I understand. Thank you for that, sir. Back to Dr. Srikanth, sir, like we had the university and the students' perspective. About the faculty, what steps are being taken to bring the faculty to speed on the online modes of instruction? And how can we ensure that we can have meaningful student-teacher interactions in the online space?
Yeah, see, regarding the preparation of the faculty for the online mode of teaching, initially, as I told you, teachers had that little, hesitation, and also they had their own doubts about the efficiency and also efficacy of the online courses. But then, from the administrative point of view, a lot of motivation was required on the part of the administration to, we had to motivate the teachers and also students, both teachers and students, on the merits of online education, and also the essentiality of the online education in the present context. With no other alternative. Imagine that, we should be thankful to the technology. If the technology were not there, it has come to our rescue. If it were not there, probably, the students would have lost one academic year. See, if you would have lost one academic year. So that way, we should be thankful to the technology. The students, somehow they were able to manage, and they did not lose the academic year. But I can say that now, of course, for the last 1 or 6 months or 1.5 years, as you know, over time, the students and teachers, I would say that they have become now accustomed to the online mode of teaching, and they are very happy with that, and they're very comfortable with that. And we can definitely improve the efficiency and the efficacy of the online teaching by connecting with the students.
Yeah.
What I mean by connecting with the students is, we have to understand their motivation for attending my class. For example, if I say I ask the students to attend my class, I should motivate them on why they should attend my class. So I should motivate them as to why they should attend my class. and then know their expectations and also areas of interest. And also I should know the kind of support that they require.
Yeah.
And also the weaknesses that they have. So if I try to understand these problems of the students and find solutions and try to motivate them, then probably I can definitely create interest among the students and connect with them. And that makes them to attend my classes regularly. And then I have to also advise the students to focus on learning. See, that is a very important thing. Generally, what happens, students find it difficult to be attentive and also, or concentrate in the class and stay on the track for a long time. So we can definitely get over this problem by making the classes very interactive.
Yes.
This is the experience that I have, in the class. This is what I have experienced.
Yeah.
So we can hold the attention of the students by interacting with them regularly, asking questions, including them in the discussions, including the discussions, making them to understand the expected outcome of the class and give them assignments and keep reminding them to complete the task well before the deadline. And so by a constant interaction with them, we can definitely hold their attention and motivate the students also by telling the importance of the class and also what is going to be discussed in the class, how it is going to be important in their learning process, and how it is going to help them in understanding the future topics and also the subject in totality. So by giving this information to the students, we can definitely make it interesting. And also we have to adopt some innovative teaching practices like, participative program. You see, our teaching should become a participative learning process. If it is a participative learning process, we can definitely hold the attention of the student, and it's possible to make this teaching process effective and also interesting from the point of view of students.
Okay. So I have last 3 questions for our panelists, and I just want to tell you, let's wrap up the answers within 30 seconds to 1 minute, please. Professor Rishikesh, sir, colleges are a hub of social aspect. There's a lot of social interactions for students, and they learn a lot there. So how do you think the future generation should not lose out on this, because the colleges have gone online and there is no peer interaction between children? So how do you think this can be done? A quick
my simple one-liner is, we moved into online because of the pandemic. So as I said earlier, online can just be an add-on. We have to come back to the brick and mortar model. That is really where true education happens. It is a social process. We need to engage with each other, mingle with each other, and together learn. And that is really what higher education is. See, if it is a very narrow focus of getting employment and a course for that, then there could be a certain online course. But this one is, when we talk about education, even in the higher education level, we are talking about, a human, the well-being of the human. We're talking about societal well-being. Now, together for these things, we have to come together, collaborate, and learn. But when online is there along while we do this, then we are able to really reach out to the whole world and, get the best.
Great. So, Dr. Srikanth, now I'm asking you a question which Professor Rishikesh has just answered the other way. So do you think will online learning become the default mode of learning in the future? And how will then the offline elements, again, a similar question is, how will the offline elements combine with online learning?
No, I don't say
30 seconds to 1 minute. Yeah.
I don't say it will become a default kind of education. What do you mean by default? Because it happens only because something else is not happening and something else is not doing. It happens only because something else does not happen or someone else is not doing it, something else, right? No, it won't happen that it won't become a default education. In my opinion, I prefer the brick and click kind of education. That is a blended learning. Blended learning, that is both offline and also online learning. We call it as the brick and click kind of education. So because for example, some subjects which require the practical kind of practicals and practical and projects, things like that and all that, practical kind of approach and all that, I think that could be on offline mode. And whereas the subjects which do not require, let us say, the practical work and things like that, for them, for subjects, we can definitely have online coaching and all that. So what I prefer is it is a blended learning, a mixture of both offline and online education. And of course, I can, as a teacher, I've been a teacher for last 45 years. So I can say that even the best online education it cannot replace the teacher. Even the best online cannot replace the personal, touch with an accomplished teacher. Yes. The kind of guidance, personal guidance received from an accomplished teacher can't be replaced with any kind of even the best online education. And therefore, I would prefer the blended kind of learning, and that would be probably the benchmark for the future education.
Right. So before we wrap up, final question to Professor Rishikesh. Sir, what do you think should government take steps, to streamline the online learning ecosystem in India? 30 seconds to 1 minute again.
Yeah, I think, see, Dr. Srikanth has hit the nail on its head, right? I mean, moving forward, there is going to be a lot of the blended model that is going to come in. It is important because students will get that exposure beyond their immediate environment. So for instance, if Manjul Bhargav, a Fields medalist who was one of the architects of NEP, is offering an open course while he is, still teaching there outside the country, then students being able to take that, that would be a huge opportunity. So in that sense, I think investments with regard to the central and the state universities, particularly by the government, on ensuring digital platforms, all technology in place, like for instance, how Sindhi College or Azeem Premji University, we have, the entire campus being Wi-Fi enabled. So all these will have to be part of the central and state universities as well as the district level colleges. So there is, this is almost like basic hygiene. It's non-negotiable that this infrastructure should be in place. But again, my only question is that doesn't mean that we completely go online. It will have to be, just an add-on. I wouldn't even say, a large percentage of it goes online. But then government will have to fund on the infrastructure. But also let us remember that priority funding is really with regard to ensuring that we have enough lecturers, enough other infrastructure in place. And then along with that, an online infrastructure as well. And so going forward, I think there is a lot of, bottom line is a lot of investments that is required from the government onto its colleges, state universities, as well as state central universities.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Professor Rishikesh. I think the main takeaways were about importance of blended learning, having an interactive online class, like Dr. Srikanth said, the teachers have to keep the students involved. And like Professor Rishikesh said that, there is no, this thing for, if you have to build a social interaction, social relationships, then physical classes are the answers. There's no, alternative for that. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot for both of our panelists for their time and insightful, inputs. Thanks a lot. I would also like to extend our gratitude to our sponsor of this session, the Sindhi College. So thank you one and all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Farid.
Thank you, Dr. V.S. Srikanth and Mr. Rishikesh B.S. for such a deep learning session. Hope the students have understood the importance of online education and inculcate the modern learning methods in their learning process. With that, we come to the end of 3 fabulous and rich with information sessions. I firmly believe that all the participants of this forum are now better prepared to take their next steps in their career. Here is wishing you all the very best. It has been a huge privilege to host all the experts exclusively for your benefit. We thank you once again on behalf of our sponsors, Dayanand Sagar University, International School of Management Excellence, and Sindhi College. Thank you for your presence today.